All right, so let's see. Way to go. Greek yogurt, a strained form of cultured yogurt, has grown enormously in popularity in the United States since it was first introduced in the country in the late 1980s. I didn't know that, but cool. From 2011 to 2012 alone, sales of Greek yogurt in the US increased by 50%. The resulting increase in Greek yogurt production has forced those involved in the business to address the detrimental effects of the yogurt making process may be having on the environment. Yogurt destroying the environment? Fortunately, farmers and others in Greek yogurt business have found many methods of controlling and eliminating most environmental threats. Given these solutions, as well as the many health benefits of the food, the advantages of Greek yogurt, vocabulary and context, the potential drawbacks of its production. It's vocab, you want to pick something that sounds good. I think it's outweigh, because you weigh pros and cons. The main environmental problem caused by the production of Greek yogurt is the creation of acid whey as a byproduct. Because it requires up to 4 times more milk to make than conventional yogurt does, Greek yogurt produces larger amounts of acid whey, which is difficult to dispose of. I think sentence 1 and 2 go together. To address the problem of disposal, farmers have found a number of uses for acid whey. They can add it to livestock feed as a protein something and something. Interesting. Okay, so if it is improperly introduced into the environment, acid whey runoff can pollute waterways, depleting the oxygen content of streams. I think that 3 is A, that sounded correct. Depleting the oxygen content of streams and rivers as it decomposes. Yogurt manufacturers, food scientists, and government officials are also working together to develop additional solutions for reusing whey. Pretty sure 4 is good old punctuation. It's a serial comma construction. You do A, comma, B, comma, and C, and then so that one is C. With number 2, you'll notice I kind of skipped it. This is main idea, so main idea means we got to read the whole paragraph, which I did, and that we shouldn't pick random answer choices, or that we should pick answers that follow the directions. So let's see, in this case, which choice provides the most relevant detail? Nice. I noticed when I was reading this paragraph, I said like, interesting earlier. I was like, on sentence 3, it was talking about addressing the problem of disposal. They found a number of uses for acid whey. Sentence 4 only said like one thing that they did, like they add it to livestock feed as protein. I was like, where's the other thing? I think it's B. I think we're good there. Sentence 5. Question 5 is main idea, but the moving sentence is variety. This is the one where matching words is okay, and you want to make sure that you're checking to see if the sentence before and after agree with the wherever you move this one. So sentence 5, we have if it's improperly introduced into the environment, acid whey runoff can pollute waterways. Okay, this sentence I noticed was like negative. And the thing with this paragraph was that it was only negative towards the beginning. It turned positive, I believe, on sentence 3 when it was talking about how they found like a number of uses for it. So I believe that sentence 5 ought to be placed prior to sentence 3. I just want to double check to make sure that it doesn't go between 1 and 2. But like I said earlier, I thought 1 and 2 went together really well, considering that they were both like talking about the negative consequence of creating acid whey as a byproduct. I think that the answer here would be after sentence 2, C. Next, 6, main idea. We got to read the whole paragraph. Though these conservation methods can be costly and time-consuming, they're well worth the effort. Nutritionists consider Greek yogurt to be a healthy food. It's an excellent source of calcium and protein, serves as a digestive aid. Vocab and context, pick what's right, so B. Pick what sounds right, so B. And it contains few calories in its unsweetened, low and non-fat forms. This should be C. It's another punctuation question, testing you on the serial comma. The parallel construction would be 1, is an excellent source, 2, serves as a digestive aid, and 3, contains. We don't have to say it again, considering that the other 2 things in the list didn't say it. Okay, then 9, let me just see. Greek yogurt is slightly lower in sugar and carbohydrates than conventional yogurt is. Because it's more concentrated, Greek yogurt contains slightly more protein per serving, thereby helping people stay satiated for longer periods. I think that 10 is A, because satiated is the correct sounding word for when you're like full from eating. 9, I noticed that there was a therefore here. Now this is, I think, College Board going to be, this is when College Board is hoping, they're like perched at the edge of their seats hoping I pick that one, I think, because then they're going to very eagerly be able to remind me that, oh, hey, just because something's lower in sugar and carbs, it doesn't mean that it's higher in protein. It's like, oh, you can have like regular Coke and then Diet Coke. There's no protein in both of them. So I'm pretty sure C is too strong to use. For instance, like having more protein isn't an example of having less sugar and carbs. Again, like the Coke example. Then in other words, it's not a rephrasing either, so it's A. Let me just go back and see if we can, well, I want to read the rest of this paragraph. I'll go back to the main idea one from earlier. Just in an abundance of caution, I always advise to read all of the main idea questions paragraph. The health benefits have prompted Greek yogurt's recent surge in popularity. In fact, Greek yogurt can be found in an increasing number of products such as snack food and frozen desserts. Because consumers reap the nutritional benefits of Greek yogurt and support those who make and sell it, therefore, that's hella redundant. It's B, because they just said because earlier, and then so it'd be quite strange to say therefore twice. Let me just go back and answer this main idea question now. Though these conservation methods can be costly and time-consuming, they are well worth the effort. I think that this is probably pretty good because the rest of the paragraph was talking about how or why it's well worth the effort. I think that this should be a keeper. Let's see. It doesn't provide a transition from the previous. That would be a delete answer. Nice. C. So we don't want to delete it. So it's going to be a C or a D. No, it because it continues the explanation of how acid waste can be disposed of safely. I don't know if that's I think that's a lie. And then D. No, because it sets up the argument in the paragraph for the benefits of Greek yogurt. D is not lying. It's D. Onwards, making sure that we've answered everything, which I think we have. 12 main idea. Sadly, read the whole paragraph. Most of Greenland's interior is covered by a thick layer of ice and compressed snow known as the Greenland ice sheet. The size of the ice sheet fluctuates seasonally. In summer, average daily high temperatures in Greenland can rise to slightly above 50 degrees Fahrenheit, partially melting the ice. In the winter, the sheet thickens as additional snow falls, and average daily low temperatures can drop to as low as 20 degrees. Which choice most accurately and effectively represents the information in the graph? So they were talking about average daily low temperatures. The average daily low temperature is the solid line. I'm sure College Board is just absolutely astounded that I was able to figure that one out. The solid line goes down to 12. I'm a little weirded out that March is... This sentence was talking about like in the winter, but then this is in March. But maybe it's kind of close. I would say that the answer is B. Let's see. Typically, the ice sheet begins to show evidence of thawing in late summer. This follows several weeks of higher temperatures. Yes, we have optimization, my second favorite. So optimization, we know that it's a type of redundancy question. Semicolons are literally always wrong. Comma fanboys are pretty much always wrong. They can be right really rarely if everything else is bad. And then there are no punctuation mistakes usually. And so we're looking for repetition here. I'm pretty sure the answer is A, like B and C have comma fanboys. And then D has evidence, which would make the sentence say evidence twice because they said it already in the first line when they were like, the ice sheet begins to show evidence of thawing in late summer. Yeah. Following several weeks of higher, typically the ice sheet begins to show evidence of thawing in late summer, following several weeks of higher temperatures. Great. In the summer of 2012, virtually the entire Greenland ice sheet underwent thawing at or near its surface by mid-July, the earliest date on record. Okay, so those are two very different scenarios. One was talking about the typical, like the typical pattern of melting or whatever, and then the next sentence was talking about this really unusual situation where the entire thing melted really early. So then I think this is going to be a contrast B. Most scientists looking for the causes of the Great Melt of 2012 have focused exclusively on rising temperatures. The summer of 2012 was the warmest in 170 years. Ooh, records show. But Jason Box, an associate professor of geology at Ohio State, believes that another factor added to the early thaw, the dark snow problem. Okay, so then in 15 we got punctuation. I think that we can use the pause rule. Also, you can use the parentheses rule to notice that an associate professor of geology at Ohio State is parenthesized and can be deleted. The ways to mark a parentheses would be with parentheses literally, 2 commas, 2 dashes. Note, if the parentheses is at the end of the sentence and you want to use commas or dashes, you'll only need 1 because the period will count as the second one. I think that this answer is C. Yeah. 16 struck me as a colon answer because it felt like it worked really well with let me tell you what. So Jason Box believes that another factor added to the early thaw, let me tell you what, the dark snow problem. Let me tell you what is colon specialty, so C. Nice. D is wrong because it says being. Don't know why SAT doesn't like that word, but they seem to have a very strong aversion to it. Onwards. According to Box, a leading Greenland expert, tundra fires in 2012 from as far away as North America produced great amounts of soot. Some of it drifted... Okay, so then that's a comma splice. Like A is definitely wrong because there were 2 independent clauses. We had tundra fires produced on the left, and then some drifted on the right. So in order to fix this question, we would need to create some kind of dependent clause. The answer would be C, because which is a relative pronoun. It would create a dependent clause called a relative clause. This question would count as a punctuation question, even though it doesn't look like it, because it's related to clause rules. some of which drifted over Greenland in giant plumes of smoke and then fell as particles onto the ice sheet. I think that this is tense agreement, and we already had a past tense drifted earlier, so I'm pretty sure I just need to preserve the past tense here. I'm pretty sure it's A. Scientists have long known that soot particles facilitate melting by darkening snow and ice, limiting blank ability to reflect the sun's rays. I think the thing that's reflecting the sun's rays is the snow and the ice, because they're bright or white. I think that they're plural, and then so you shouldn't refer to it as it, because it is always singular. 19 is going to be D. As Box explains, soot is an extremely powerful light absorber. It settles over the ice, sorry, my cursor's in the way, and captures the sun's heat. The resulting is a self-reinforcing cycle. As the ice melts, the land and water under the ice become exposed, and since land and water are darker than snow, the surface absorbs even more heat, which is related to rising temperatures. Which choice best completes the description of a self-reinforcing cycle? Well, I don't want to just assume, so I want to use like what they said a self-reinforcing cycle was, and that was some of the 5 lines above where it said the result is a self-reinforcing cycle, and they said that it begins with as the ice melts. Now, there are a couple answer choices here that I see that have to do with like rising temperatures, but I think that those are bait answer choices, and if I pick them, College Board's going to jump out of the weeds and be like, haha, rising temperatures doesn't mean that it melted. So I think that you have to say it like it's D. Classic CB. All right, let's see, onwards. Moving sentences coming up. You can tell from the bracketed one. So I'm just going to kind of see if there are any sentences that pair roughly. And keep an eye out for matching words, maybe. Box's research is important because the fires of 2012 may not be a one-time phenomenon. According to scientists, rising Arctic temperatures are making northern latitudes greener and thus more fire-prone. I think 1 and 2 go together. The pattern Box observed in 2012, these probably go together, may repeat itself again. Okay, this question is repeating itself a lot, too many times, again and again, over and over, so I think it's redundancy. So B. With harmful effects on the Arctic ecosystem? Yeah. Box is currently organizing an expedition to gather this crucial information. The next step for Box and his team is to travel to Greenland to perform direct sampling of the ice in order to determine just how much the soot is contributing to the melting of the ice sheet. Members of the public will be able to track his team's progress and even fund the expedition through a website Box has created. All right, so we're moving sentence 4. Box is currently organizing an expedition to gather this crucial information. I just saw the word expedition earlier, or later. It was late in the paragraph. It was earlier in time. I think it was like sentence 6, right? Yeah, help fund the expedition. Matching words is good. Pretty sure that this sentence, that also saying expedition, is supposed to be touching that one, and so I think it's D. Let me just make sure that the part before it, like he's currently organizing an expedition, agrees with what sentence 5 is talking about. They want to determine just how much the soot is contributing to the melting of the ice sheet. That would be the crucial information that he's trying to gather. All right, so I'm pretty sure that it's D. Let's see, 23 or onward, next passage. When I left my office job as a website developer at a small company for a position that allowed me to work full-time from home, I thought that I had made it. I gleefully traded in my suits and I thought he was wearing suits and dresses. Okay. I gleefully traded in my suits and dress shoes for sweatpants and slippers, my frantic early morning bagged lunch, packing for a leisurely midday trip to my refrigerator. Like, not that wearing suits and dresses is bad. I just wasn't expecting that. Just disclaimer. The novelty of this comfortable work from home life, however, soon got worn off quickly. That's very repetitive. Again, I think they're repeating stuff repeatedly. So D. Within a month, I found myself feeling isolated despite having frequent email and instant messaging contact with my colleagues, having become frustrated trying to solve difficult problems. It's the dangling element. It's my favorite. It's like the rare Pokemon. Having become frustrated trying to solve difficult problems, no colleagues were nearby to share the ideas. There's no way it's A. So dangling element happens when you start a sentence with a participial gerund or infinitive clause that doesn't have a referent, meaning like you can't tell who it's describing. So in this case, when it says having become frustrated trying to solve difficult problems, that's the beginning of this sentence. And I don't know who became frustrated trying to solve difficult problems. I can't determine who that's describing. Whom that's describing. The rule is then that the first noun or pronoun to which it's attached must be what it's describing. So if I attach it to like see ideas or something like that, then that would mean that the ideas became frustrated, which last time I checked, I don't think ideas become frustrated. maybe they will someday. But for now, I think it's not C. I think it's a D. Like it could be B. It could be B or D. Those would both make sense. Colleagues and I, both of those could become frustrated. But given that this whole paragraph was written in kind of this like, whoa, AirPod down. Given that this whole paragraph is written in kind of like a first person throughout, there are a lot of sentences I. This makes me think that in order to preserve that pattern, it's going to be D. Sure ideas. It was during this time that I read an article into co-work. Yeah, I read it into the spaces. I think it's about the spaces, B. Next. The article published by Forbes magazine explained that co-working spaces are designated locations that for a fee, individuals can use to conduct their work. The spaces are usually stocked with standard office equipment, such as photocopiers, printers, and fax machines. The pause rule to the rescue. Like, this is punctuation. First rule is you got to pronounce the punctuation with a pause. And I noticed that when I read that sentence, I just said such as photocopiers. I didn't say such as photocopiers. So I didn't say, because B, C, and D would make you pause after such as. In these locations, however, so these spaces are usually stocked with standard office equipment, such as photocopiers, printers, and fax machines. The spaces often include small meeting areas and larger rooms for hosting presentations, so it's just adding more detail about what's going on there. It's not A, we don't need a contrast transition like however, that you'd use that to separate changes in tone or opposite things. In addition to equipment, probably for these reasons, that would be a causal relationship again, and I don't think that spaces being stocked with office equipment is the reason why they have small meeting areas. It might be one of the reasons why, but if you use a causal transition, then you're implying that it's the main reason or only reason why. And then D, weirdly enough, likewise is like always wrong. Likewise and similarly, I haven't seen them be correct literally ever, except for the May 2023 QAS like real test. It was the first time that I've ever seen likewise be correct. It absolutely blew my mind. I was like really surprised to see that. Although you could still tell that it had to be the right answer because they gave you a triple contrast transition, I think. It was something like that as the other answer choices. Like there was some way of telling the other answer choices couldn't work. But yeah, usually wrong, likewise. Okay. These spaces often include meeting areas and larger rooms for hosting presentations. The cost of launching a new co-working business in the United States is estimated to be approximately $58,000. Nice. So I'm glad that I read that whole paragraph because this whole paragraph was talking about like their working spaces and things like this. It had nothing to do with money or like how much the cost. I think that this sentence is definitely random. Let's delete it. So it should be kept deleted because it blurs the main paragraph, reading's hard. Because it blurs the paragraph's main focus with a loosely related detail, or because it repeats information that's been provided in an earlier paragraph. I don't think that that's been. I believe that D is a lie, which you should keep an eye out for on these add/delete questions. I believe the answer is C. Nice. What most caught my interest, though, was a quotation from someone who described co-working spaces as melting pots of creativity. The article refers to a 2012 survey in which 64% of respondents noted that co-working spaces prevented them from completing tasks in a given time. Well, this is sort of the value of reading a paragraph when you see a main idea question. The paragraph started talking about creativity, and then this sentence is contradicting it like for no reason. There's no indication with however or nevertheless at the beginning of this second sentence to indicate that he meant to say something opposite. So without even consulting the graph, like I'm pretty sure that what 29A is incorrect. I'm going to read the rest of the paragraph just to be safe. The article goes on to suggest that the most valuable resources provided by co-working spaces are actually the people whom use them. Whom is not the object of its relative clause. It's actually the subject, like who use them, the people use them. If it's the subject, then you want to do who is the subject form. It's going to be D because people's plural, and so you wouldn't say people uses. Okay, so for 29, like we said, main idea, the nice thing about main idea is that whatever alteration you're making to a paragraph, it's got to belong in that paragraph anyway. So whatever they ask you for, they're not giving you permission to break that paragraph. That's why like I knew that 29A was wrong. But then let's see what else it could be. I'm guessing it's going to have something to do with creativity, given that that's what this paragraph's first sentence said. 71% of respondents indicated that using a co-working space increased their creativity. That looks nice. I'm just going to make sure that it's true. I think it is. It says it right there, but okay. Respondents credited co-working spaces with giving it 74% of their ideas relating to business. Respondents credited co-working spaces with giving them 74. Okay, the co-working spaces gave them the idea. I think that's a little bit strange. I don't feel like the co-working space is the thing that gave them idea. Maybe the environment associated with the creative, like collaborative working, creative working space is what gave it to them. I feel like that's a little weirdly worded. Relating to business also is a little random in this paragraph. I know it's on the graph, but it's like I'm not sure that they're talking about relating to business here in this paragraph. So like I was saying, we don't want to kill this paragraph. Respondents revealed that their ability to focus on their work improved by 12% in a co-working space. Well, okay, so focus, well, it's wrong, I think, first of all, because the graph is saying that the 12% had a negative impact, but other than that, it also wouldn't belong in this paragraph. I'm pretty sure it's B. Onwards. Moving sentences coming up. Thus, even though I already had all the equipment I needed in my home office, I decided to try using a co-working space in my city. Because I was specifically interested in co-working's reported benefits related to creativity, I chose a facility that offered a bright, open work area where I wouldn't be isolated. Throughout the morning, more people arrived. Periods of quiet, during which everyone worked independently, were broken up occasionally with lively conversation. Nice description. All right, 31. After filling out a simple registration form and taking a quick tour of the facility, I took a seat at a table and got right to work on my laptop. So they said the facility, like they used the definite article, which implies that you expect the reader to know what facility they're talking about. So he would need to have mentioned the facility before this sentence. Now, I believe there was one in sentence 2, where he chose a facility, and notice that when he says a facility, he says the indefinite article, meaning he hasn't mentioned facility yet, and he doesn't expect me to know what he's talking about, so I'm pretty sure this one goes after sentence 2, C. I like the experience so much that I now go to the co-working space a few times a week. Over time, I've gotten to know several of my co-working colleagues, another website developer, a graphic designer, a freelance writer, and several mobile app coders. I think that this is either A or C. I think that it's A because I get the feeling that he's trying to list out who the co-working colleagues are. If you picked C, then co-working colleagues would be the first item in a list of things that he's gotten to know. Like, he's gotten to know several of my co-working colleagues is the first one. I've gotten to know another website developer. I've gotten to know a graphic designer. But then I feel like that would create a little bit of a redundant feeling considering that, like, all of these things are within the group of colleagues. That's why I think that it's attempting to list out who the colleagues are. So I think the answer is A. Also, the let me tell you who, or let me tell you why, let me tell you what, works really well here, and that's another coin in the colon jar. Even those of us who work in disparate fields are able to share advice and help each other brainstorm. This is vocab. We want to pick what sounds appropriate for the context. Opine, this is not like someone writing like an opinion article. Proclaim our opinions. I'm not standing on top of a mountain like shouting like my views for the world to hear. Give some wisdom. I don't think this sentence is about a guru who's like, just sharing little droplets of wisdom. I believe it's A, because that's what you do in a creative, collaborative workplace. In fact, the diversity of talents. Yeah, okay, great. Pretty sure it is. 34, let me just scroll up the enough amount. Okay. Long viewed by many as a stereotypical useless major. What? Philosophy? Oh no. Philosophy is awesome. Philosophy is now being seen by many students and prospective employers as in fact a very useful and practical major, as they should, offering students a host of transferable skills with relevance to the modern workplace. Philosophy is the study of meaning and the values underlying thought and behavior. Oh, like I think in broad terms is really nice here because when you say in broad terms, it means that you're going to describe something generally, and that's like what a definition does. So, A. But more pragmatically, the discipline encourages students to analyze complex material, question conventional beliefs, and express thought in a concise manner. Oh, 35 looks like it's being extra wordy, like it's using more words than it needs to because the words are being too extra, and that's, if you use more words than that are required, then the being extra is not short. Redundancy. Pretty sure that this is A. Okay, good. Because philosophy teaches students not what to think, but how to think, the age-old discipline. Because philosophy teaching students not what to think, the age-old discipline? Teaches? B? I think it's B. The age-old discipline offers consistently useful tools for academic and professional achievement. Main idea, I'm just going to keep reading. A 1994 survey concluded that only 18% of American colleges required at least one philosophy course, so negative about colleges. Between 1992 and 1996, more than 400 independent philosophy departments were eliminated from institutions. No! Okay, so negative about colleges. We want something that's going to set up negative about colleges. Consequently, philosophy students have been receiving an increasing number of job offers. That would be good. So, I mean, I wish that were the case, but this wouldn't fit here. Therefore, because of the evidence, colleges have increased their offerings in philosophy. This is directly contradicted by what comes later. Notwithstanding the attractiveness of this course of study, students have resisted majoring in philosophy. Closer, but the next two sentences were about college, not so much the students, so I'm a little iffy. D, however, despite its many utilitarian, nice, okay, benefits, colleges have not always supported the study of philosophy. It's D. Matches really nicely. 1994, I'm going to read those two sentences surrounding this transition again. A 1994 survey concluded that only 18% of American colleges required at least one philosophy course. Between 1992 and 1996, more than 400 independent philosophy departments. So these are both negative. It can't be, oh, interesting. So A and B are both causal transitions, like they're synonyms. So they can't both be right, so those are out. However, wouldn't make sense here, considering that however would be used to separate two sentences that are different in tone, different in idea. These two are both talking about how colleges are being highly disrespectful towards philosophy, sadly. So then it's going to be C. Adding another detail. More recently, colleges have recognized the practicality and increasing popularity of studying philosophy and have markedly increased the number of philosophy programs offered. By 2008, there were 817 programs, up from 765 a decade before. Nice. In addition, the number of four-year graduates in philosophy has grown 46% in a decade. Also, studies have found that those students who major in philosophy often do better than students from other majors in both verbal reasoning and analytical writing, as measured by standardized test scores. Again, we have optimization, the second best type of question because they're easy. So then optimization is like, yeah, don't be redundant. Don't pick semicolons or comma fanboys. There's one right there. Unless the sentence is like taking way too many liberties or something like that. So A. On the graduate record examination, GRE, for example, students intending to study philosophy in graduate school have scored. Students was the subject. Intending to study philosophy in graduate school, I believe, is a present participial clause, meaning it's extra. So if the subject is students, then students is the third person plural, meaning it's they. You would say they have scored. B. These days, many students majoring in philosophy, I think it's just no possessives, right? So many students who are majoring or who have majored, yeah. So B, many students majoring in philosophy have no intention of becoming philosophers. Instead, they plan to apply these skills to other disciplines. Law and business specifically benefit from the complicated theoretical issues raised in the study of philosophy, but philosophy can be just as useful in engineering or any field requiring complex analytic skills. Main idea coming up, the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, for example, wrote many of his works in, okay, so I know I'm supposed to read the whole paragraph, but that seems about as random as can be, as much as I love Plato. Oh, it's because like they want me to say that Plato is a philosopher and then that's okay. But then, we know that we're not allowed to insert random things when it comes to main idea questions. So you'd have to have some good reason for mentioning like the dialogues part as well and the writing his works, which isn't necessarily philosophical. I don't know if like the dialogues are philosophy things, but if you're writing it in the form of a dialogue, I'm not sure that that's necessarily a philosophical like format. Pretty sure it's not. I think that this is going to be a no answer. We need to find the one that's truthful. So let's see, C, because it blurs the paragraph's focus by introducing a new idea that goes unexplained. That's pretty much, I think that's pretty good. And then D, because it undermines the passage's claim about the employability of philosophy majors. Well, this thing isn't talking about the employability of philosophy majors, like in the sentence that they're attempting to insert. And then so it would be really difficult for me to provide like really obvious evidence that D is correct. So if I had to say that D was right, I would have to substantiate that this is actually undermining the passage's claim about the employability of philosophy majors without mentioning the employability of philosophy majors, I think is a lie. So D, C, D is wrong, C is right, I think. That these skills are transferable across professions, which makes them especially beneficial to the 21st century students. Oh, okay, so that sentence had no main clause in it. We need to fix that. That these skills are transferable across professions, It makes them especially beneficial to 21st century students is better. What we have going on here is a clausal subject. Most of the time subjects are like one word, but sometimes they can be an entire clause. And this entire clause here, that these skills are transferable across professions, would count as the subject of that sentence. If you're going to use a clausal subject like that, it'll count as third person singular, so it makes. D. Because today's students can expect to hold multiple jobs, some of which may not even exist yet, during our lifetime, I think it's students' lifetime, it's there. During there, D. Good. Finished. Done.